Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. If this is your first time checking out a video, please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. We're watching a clip of First Things First, talking about Anthony Edwards. Apparently Chris Broussard reached out to none other than Michael Jordan, who said that, he's comparable or he reminds him of himself. I'm not really sure. I didn't, I never, watched these clips beforehand, but I saw on Twitter, X, whatever, that was like, apparently that's what happened. So I just kind of queued it up. I'm curious to see like what the story is behind this and what the actual conversation itself is. Just off the top before we, officially jump in. I think it's a little absurd. If we're saying that his style of play is similar or something, okay, sure. I could understand all of that. But, like, what made, Jordan was his relentless pursuit of being the best in every single aspect of the game in every single moment, and as well as obviously winning. And we have just not seen any player like that. Not even LeBron James. Even if you want to say that LeBron James is a better all-around player, the ruthlessness that Jordan brought and has is just second to no one. So, and Anthony Edwards just does not have that. It's not to say that he doesn't want to be the best or that he doesn't try hard or anything like that, but it's just, again, there's just different levels to it. So it just, off the top, it seems like a silly comparison. So I'm curious what everyone's actually talking about. So let's take a listen and we'll break it down from there.
Jordan-esque. A little comparison.
Okay.
Are you buying the MJ comparisons?
Well, look, there's two comparisons to Michael Jordan. There's one in he could one day be as good as Michael Jordan or better, and that's where LeBron always got compared to Jordan.
That's gonna
not
be hard.
Because stylistically they played like that. Then there's the other one of the game is similar, and he's not as great as Anthony Edwards is, and I think he can be I think he can be
the best player
the best
in the league.
American player, maybe the face of the league, at least American players. He's not going to ever be in the GOAT conversation. As great as he will be, he's not going to be in the GOAT conversation. But stylistically, well, I reached out to the GOAT today, Michael Jordan. And Jordan said there are similarities in their games. He agreed. Wow. So Jordan said there's similarities, all right? And what I like, in addition to the athleticism and the explosive dunks, all right, his desire to play is like MJ's. This is not today, but in the past, I talked to Michael Jordan about the concept of shortening the season to from 82 games. It sickened him. He couldn't understand why in the world wouldn't players want 82 games. Anthony Edwards is like, I don't want to load manage. I want to play. And this dunk is proof of it. He dislocates his finger, goes to the locker room, gets it popped back into place, taped up, and then comes back out and plays. How many players today would have been like, hey, I'm good. I'm good.
Ronnie,
I get it. But there are guys sitting out just because they want to sit out.
Okay. He also took off the All-Star game, had the worst quote about the All-Star game I've ever heard in my life.
But he also, how about his defense? He plays defense too. So those are similar to Jordan too. So I like the comparison as far as the style of play.
Before I give the answer, quick sidebar. With the fact that my television partner, Chris Broussard, is chatting with Michael Jordan, and my fake television rival, JJ Redick, is doing a pod with LeBron James. If I don't get Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on the phone soon, I'm in bad shape. I am getting boxed in right now by my fellow TV compatriots. All right, so I did not speak to Michael Jordan. So instead I just said, let's just do a fair, because I agree with a lot of what Bruce said. Obviously, he's not going to, Anthony Edwards is not, we don't look at him and say one day is he going to be the greatest player ever. But other than Bobby Knight, I don't know that a year into Jordan's career, 2 years in when he broke his foot, people were like, he's going to be the greatest player ever. Anthony Edwards has had 3 complete seasons. All right? So we can just stack up how he looked compared to how Jordan looked. Guys, it's not fair. I know Wilds is a win-loss guy, but it's not fair to can we put some actual stats on there? Okay, there. Oh,
3-point percentage.
Listen, I don't know what they were going to put up there.
Really?
Stop this nonsense.
Did the line not exist?
How good was he at
He
4
probably
seconds?
had a better three-point percentage than Larry Bird in his first. Was he a better shooter than Larry Bird?
Again, I'm not.
Stop it.
Again, I'm not. What do you mean? I just showed you some numbers. I noticed you guys jumped to that. You didn't jump to the under 500 every year or one playoff game. All I'm saying is Anthony Edwards on a good pace. Now in year 4 for Jordan.
On a good pace for what?
Well, who knows?
To
we'll
catch
see.
Michael Jordan?
I'm not sure. Text Mike and see what he thinks of that full screen.
He ain't gonna like it.
Quickly, Brew. Just the Wolves are 47-21. They have the same record as Denver. They're the best team on the road. They have the best defense, and they're 4-2 without Cat, and Anthony Edwards seems to have extended. But it feels like the narrative of this table and elsewhere is like, yeah, I could see him going out in round 1.
Yeah.
Well, look, the West there's Denver, and everybody else is going to be in the postseason. That's really what it is. So I get that. You get the wrong match. OKC could go out in the first round. I mean, really. And they're right there at the number 1 seed, too. I will say this about Minnesota, assuming they're at full health. They have the size that theoretically could bother Denver and Nikola Jokic.
And they played them last year in the playoffs.
Right, they playing fairly tough because you can put Cat or Rudy or Cat on them, and then the other one can come in and help from the weak side. Sure. Now, obviously, you're giving up some threes maybe, but I mean, they got the size, and then you got a difference maker like Anthony Edwards. I wouldn't pick them, but could they make it interesting? Sure.
I know we have to move on just quickly. I do wonder if Anthony Edwards continues this, and if without Cat they stay, as the 1 seeder in that vicinity, if he could knock Tatum off some MVP ballots.
Oh.
I do wonder that. You know what I mean?
We talked about that a week or two ago.
Right, that if they are the 1 seed and he has all these moments, his numbers are great, and right now, it's not like Tatum's playing poorly, but the last month, Jaylen Brown has probably been the best player on the Celtics, and so
it's
going to be hard.
So, okay. This clip kind of, it's kind of two conversations at this point, right? Like, the Anthony Edwards comparison to MJ, as well as what can they do in the playoffs. In terms of comparison to MJ and what Nic Wright put up, man, as that was playing, I was like, do I even want to comment on this? Do I even want to give it the credence, the credence to it? Because it's just so absurd. The game of basketball has changed so dramatically comparing stats. And that's what, Brew was even kind of saying, like, he probably has a better 3-point shooting percentage than Larry Bird. Does that mean he's better than Larry Bird at shooting threes? And we obviously know the answer is no. So it's just silly. And it's hard to know if Nick was being serious in that moment, because a part of me thinks he was. The other part of me knows that he knows that it's, it's a bad faith argument. But I don't know. You never honestly know Nick. Nick notoriously cooks the books, notoriously picks and chooses, when he wants to live in reality versus fantasy, whatever is convenient for his point at the time. So, I've never been a fan at comparing, those data points, because it's just silly to me, honestly. But in terms of, what do we do with Anthony Edwards right now? It's interesting because people are talking about how he could be the next MJ, or there's, MJ comparisons, and he could be the next face of the NBA, and maybe even an MVP and all this. Yet, outside of Minnesota Timberwolves fans, no one's like, oh, I think they're gonna, reach the NBA Finals, or they're gonna win. No one's really. People are, for the last month or two, the main talk has really been the Celtics versus Denver, right? Like, that's what pretty much the average casual / extra, a notch above the casual fan thinks is going to happen. Again, I'm sure some of you big, NBA, super fans are digging in a little bit more deeply and are saying, what about OKC? What about Milwaukee? Obviously, I think all those teams have, a chance to a degree, but I would say that I'm not so sure what the unbiased argument is for the Minnesota Timberwolves, especially with Cat being injured. First and foremost, because I don't know if they know how to win playoff series. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. Basketball and baseball really are very unique in that regard, as I'm holding a little baseball bat. That's actually signed by a player. I have no idea who it is. Rick something. Doesn't matter. But this is from the Baseball Hall of Fame, and I'm just like swinging it around. But so basketball and baseball are different because of the way how their series unfolds. And so winning a series in the playoffs for both baseball and basketball, but obviously we're just talking about basketball now, it's very specific. You really have to learn and know how to win a series, what to do in all different scenarios, okay? Football, at the end of the day, a football game is a football game. Whether it's, the third quarter in the wild card round or the third quarter of week 12, it's like, if you're going to call, an all-out blitz, like, that's what you're going to call, right? Like, it's just different. But with basketball, winning a series, you need to play the same team potentially 7 times. You're playing the same players 7 times. That alone is jarring for a young team, because unless you've already been to the playoffs and played a bunch of series, you don't have experience. You don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like to play LeBron James 7 games in a row, or maybe you're not going all 7. Maybe you're going 5, 6 games, Typically, if you have any type of chance, at least it's going to go 5 or 6 games. You don't know what that's like, to do that. And that alone is something that we see younger players not always able to get their head around. Now, the Timberwolves have grown more and matured, and they have now playoff experience, but they don't necessarily have like true playoff success. Like Anthony Edwards last year's in playoffs was like kind of wonky, like he had moments when you were like, okay, let's go. And then he had other moments when it was just like, this is just a boy trying his best, which I get, and it was just like, this is just a kid out there, like he looked like a little boy in a grown man's body. And it was one of those things that you had to tell yourself, remind yourself that this is the way how it works for basketball. You're not seeing 22-year-olds, 23, 24, 25-year-olds, leading their teams to victory in the playoffs. It just doesn't happen. It just does not happen. These guys aren't winning until they're 27, 28, 29, outside of some of the situations when a team is very fortunate to already have great players, who are already older and more mature. But you just don't see that in basketball. Again, it took years for LeBron James to win. It took years for Michael Jordan to win. It took years for Giannis to win. It took years for Steph Curry to win. That's just the way it goes. And so there was moments that were getting intense with Anthony Edwards, and you could see it. It was like he was experiencing it for the first time in his career, in essence. So, and I'm just not so sure they're done with those growing pains. And I'm not so sure that the team is good enough to withstand any of those pains that they're still going to face in the playoffs. Also, especially depending on what the heck's going on with Cat. And that's what made the Warriors so unique, because they had all these players, for the most part, like their core was like, all around the same age and the same level of experience, but they were all so good collectively, and they did have a little bit of a pocket around them of veterans, Barbosa, oh God, I can't think of a bunch of their names right now, but I can see all their faces. And so, I don't know why Barbosa is the only one I can think of. That's just where Sean Livingston was the other name I was trying to think of. And so you had these pockets where they could be insulated, and not to mention they could rely on their core, because their core is so good that, let's say, even in a game or a moment where, let's say, Steph is not, being able to fire at all cylinders, you have someone like a Clay who can pick up the slack, or vice versa, or Draymond continuing that, emotional leadership and getting everyone involved and just, playing lockdown defense that he has. And that's why I'm not having a big bet on OKC, because all of these players, I'm just like, I don't know if you know how to win a series. And even if you do win a series, can you do it again? And then again, like that's what we talk about in basketball. It's like, who can beat Denver Nuggets in a 7-game series? It's just different. Anyone can beat the Kansas City Chiefs on any given Sunday, right? That's where that saying comes from. Any given Sunday, right? The Las Vegas Raiders, who are not a good team, with a backup quarterback and a brand new interim head coach, on any given Sunday, Christmas Day, were able to beat the Chiefs. Okay, is that team beating the Chiefs 4 out of 7 times? No. The answer is no. In fact, I would guarantee that they're probably going to only win 1 out of 7. And it just so happens that we just got to see that 1 out of 7. And so in basketball, that's why they're 7-game series. So it just makes it a lot more difficult for a team like Minnesota. And it's not to say that I don't think that they can't. It's just harder to believe that they will do it. Even Denver had to keep losing until they finally won, right? And granted, there were some injuries and so it was kind of Jokic to a large degree, like on an island. But it's just, I'm just not so sure that Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves will be able to do it, especially without Cat. Because I think you need him. I mean, I know you need him if you're going to have true success in the playoffs. And I don't know what the status is with his recovery with regards to that. Especially when you have teams that, for the most part, are fully healthy and have the success, have the veterans at this point. Like the Denver Nuggets. And I've been railing against LeBron James and the Lakers, saying that they can't win anything. And I'm honestly not so sure that they would be able to beat LeBron James and the Lakers in a 7-game series, just for the sheer fact that LeBron James and AD know exactly what needs to be done. I think they would be fighting against their own body and father time, but it's just the experience matters so much. It just can't be understated. It really, really can't. It really can't. You truly need to know how to win in the NBA and how to win in the playoffs, and it's just different. Look no further than James Harden's success in the playoffs. But eventually you gotta burst through, and so it could be Anthony Edwards' year. It could be the Timberwolves' year. I wouldn't be shocked, but I would be a little surprised. I'm really thinking it's going to be the Nuggets. Even though I think that a team like OKC is maybe better, and if it was only 1 game, right? If it was like football style, 1 game to rule them all, then I would be more inclined to pick the Timberwolves or maybe the OKC. But since it's a 7-game series, it's harder for me to kind of bet against Denver in that regard, just because I think the physicality, the experience, the movement, and the combination between veterans and still youth and players in their prime, Denver Nuggets are just in that perfect balance, right? They have fresh legs, they have the experience, they're not old enough where they need to manage minutes or manage just their bodies in general. Like they can just go all, they can empty the gas tank in game 2 and still have plenty to go in game 3. Ain't no thanks. So and that's the problem with like the Warriors or the Lakers or some of these older teams. They don't have that luxury, even if they do have the experience. So I'm really excited to see what they can do in the playoffs. Maybe they'll surprise us or surprise me, but those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. Please let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.